Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Super Lunch Bros Podcast, episode number 150. I am Brendan. Man, to say that number out loud is kind of weird. We're going to go over UFC Fight Night, Dos Anjos versus Fiziev, Rafael versus Rafael, if you want to call it that. Maybe there's a third Rafael involved in there. We'll talk about that in the call-out part of it. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the main card here. This episode is for the main card. If you're looking for the prelims, that will be on the next video. We'll talk about every fight on the main card. Armen Petrosyan versus Caio Borralho. Saeed Nurmagomedov versus Douglas Silva de Andrade. You know, that's the guy. I mentioned a couple weeks ago about someone who fell asleep and ran their hand over the random Brazilian name generator. That's one of the guys who has one of those names. There's nothing wrong with his name, right? Absolutely. It's family lineage and how the names come about. I totally understand that. It's just, when you hear certain Brazilian names, they all just, they start to add up. And when you have, he has five different names. Well, De Andrade is actually one name, but it means from, whatever. Anyway, before we get started, if you made it through that stupid rant, please subscribe, because I promise it'll get better. Subscribe to the channel if you like the UFC, if you like MMA. I cover the PFL, UFC, Bellator. I do two or three videos every single week, and I cover all the fights on the main card, most of the prelims, every prelim of the UFC for sure, and then I go fight by fight, round by round on most of if not all of those fights, and we kind of figure it out. And if you like this video, click the like button. Sweet, let's go. All right, Rafael dos Anjos. Finally getting, another fight. All right, another fight with Rafael Fiziev scheduled, and it was a close one until it wasn't. Right, so in the last round, Fiziev lands a left hook that put Dos Anjos on his ass, landed a follow-up strike, and Mark Smith called it quits, and he was like, "That's enough of this." I'm one of those guys. If you've watched my channel before, you understand that I'm not hypercritical, right? I try to be objective about it, but I do like to see a definitive end to the fight. And it's like making it, I don't know, an hour and 50 minutes into a 2-hour movie, and then the movie theater is like, "Okay, that's the end of the movie. Goodbye now." And it's like, "But there was 10 minutes left, and we made it so far. I just want to see the end. Let me finish the damn movie." That's kind of how I felt with this one. Obviously, it was right away in the start of the fifth round. Fiziev just lands this beautiful left hook. He did nothing wrong here. Beautiful left hook, follows it up, does everything he's supposed to do. I feel like Mark Smith stepped in one punch too early. I don't think it was that. It's not an egregiously short stoppage, early stoppage, and nothing like that. I don't think it was that bad. Okay, it was just, I guess maybe it's just a personal thing. Maybe you didn't mind it, but for me, it was a very dissatisfying finish to what was a competitive fight. Had he landed one more punch, I would have been completely fine with it. It's just Dos Anjos felt like he was still there. It just didn't call. Anyway, I still want to break it down round by round, because there were some interesting things that happened in each one of the rounds. Something that we learned going forward for Fiziev here, because this is his first time experiencing a fourth and fifth round, although we didn't get much of a fifth round to kind of see how he would handle those extra minutes. But in this round, or in this fight, Fiziev started out like a firecracker, like he always does, man. Varied strikes at distance, landing more often. His kicks were snappy. They would go 1 for 1, right? So in these rounds, they would go 1 for 1, right? And then he would just land one more, or he would land a punch on top of those kicks. Fiziev was just landing one more shot, and it added up, and his significant strikes, his total 14-9. It wasn't a blowout or anything. It was competitive. But if you look at the total strikes here, I bet you we'll see. Oh, that's weird. Dos Anjos is higher on the total strikes. But if Fiziev was landing the bigger shots, he was landing more of them. And I felt like, like every so often he would just land like one more, like I said. And that added up over the whole round. RDA was sticking to the grappling against the cage, and that's where those total strikes come in, so that makes sense. He had 2 minutes of control time. This was a very similar story for all 3 rounds, although for the first 3 rounds. But in the 4th round, you can see here, they kind of split the control time. We'll get to that when we get there. But RDA was really focused on pressing him against the cage, keeping him stationary, slowing him down. And because of that, he had a lot of control time, but he didn't do a lot of damage. So I actually had Fiziev winning that first round. And then RDA was having a real issue with the speed that was everything that was coming back at him, okay, in the second round here. And that's how Fiziev was getting out in front. And, if you look at the total strikes here, or if you look at the significant strikes, it does say Dos Anjos was up 19-17. Maybe some of those in the clinch here in the second round were, more in favor of Dos Anjos. And if you ended up giving him this round, then I guess they're even. But I still had the bigger shots coming from Fiziev. It seemed like he was doing more, right? To the eye, it seemed like he was landing more often with harder shots. I guess Dos Anjos could have won that second round. I could be off, but I had RDA down 2 rounds. And then Fiziev finally started to slow down here in the 3rd round. His output, you can see, it did slow down. It's a pretty, 41 total output, 44, and then 38. He still landed the same amount, 17-9 of Dos Anjos. But the clinch control, and there was a momentary takedown in favor of RDA. So he did get a takedown in this round, but it didn't really do anything. I still gave this 3rd round to RDA. Maybe I switched him. I could be off, but yeah, maybe I switched the 2nd and 3rd round. But anyway, I had it 2-1 going into the 4th, and then RDA was having his best round in terms of striking, in my opinion, as far as his landing the significant shots, and Fiziev slowed down significantly here in the 4th round, attempting only 27. Right, and that's because there was a lot of clinch time, and yes, you could tell he was visibly slowing down. He was visibly tired. It wasn't so detrimental that he became a different fighter or was incapacitated in there. Obviously, he held his own, and he did just fine, but I did give this 4th round to Dos Anjos, and I had it tied going into the 5th. And then frickin' Fiziev lands that left hand, and down goes RDA, and that's the end of the fight. Some funny things after the fight, he called out, he said, "We found out who the best Rafael is in the UFC. Now time to find the best Rafael in sport." And he called out Rafael Nadal, who, if you don't know, plays tennis. So he called him out, and he's like, "I'll beat him in his sport too." That's really funny. I don't know why to me, but it was really funny, and I liked it. So that was cool. It didn't really mean anything, but whatever. I thought it was funny. All right, so we got Fiziev. He's definitely going to jump up. I would think Dos Anjos is probably going to drop outside the top 10, and some of these guys are going to move in. How is Conor McGregor still in the rankings? He was 8 last week, and now he's down to 12. Why? What happened that moved him down to 12 or whatever? Jeez, this is so dumb. Anyway, so Dos Anjos is most likely going to drop out of the top 10 because of this. Maybe he'll stay at 10, and maybe Tony will drop down as well. We can see them fight each other. That would be fun. I'm down for that. I think they were scheduled to fight each other at one point. And Fiziev should definitely be jumping up here. He should not jump ahead of Dariush because of this fight or anybody else up here. Now, he is on a 6-fight win streak. Yes, he's on a 6-fight win streak, which is hard to deny. He's taken on Brad in his past 3 fights. Actually, he doesn't have a single. I mean, Mark Diakese is the only one on here. Alex White, too. So, Renato Moicano, Bobby Green, Brad Riddell, and Rafael Dos Anjos. All 4 of those are great wins against really good opponents that put him in contention as far as I'm concerned. And he made a good calling out, hey, give me someone in the top 5. Totally down. Him versus Michael Chandler's a fun fight. Him versus Justin Gaethje's a fun fight. Versus Poirier is a fun fight. I don't think he should be fighting Oliveira because Oliveira's kind of the champ right now, even though he got his belt taken away. Him versus Dariush is fun, even though Dariush is not in the top 5. I think that would be a fun fight, but Dariush has no reason to fight him. Yeah, Poirier, Gaethje, Makhachev, all fun fights. Yeah, I'm done. It was a good fight though. I thought it was competitive. It was close. Definitely more interesting than the co-main event, which we are going to talk about now, because this fight kind of pissed me off. And it's not because of grappling, but Caio Borralho versus Armen Petrosyan. I don't have skin in this game. I don't have I don't have a favorite fighter when it comes to these two. But we'll break it down. Anyway, Borralho gets the decision win. And with that, he ends up okay. All right. What he ends up getting one of his coaches gets really upset in the corner because Mike Bell scored at 29-28, giving Petrosyan one of the rounds. Let's look at something, shall we? Okay. So in the first round here, Caio got a takedown and took the back for the entire first round. Nothing to complain about. And, he was kind of searching for a rear naked choke. He wasn't doing damage or anything, but he was, I would say, actively trying to finish the fight. Okay, let's go with that. Round 2 here. Round 2. He got a takedown, but Armen stayed on the feet more than he did in the first round. And I said, I don't know if he did enough damage, but looking at the striking numbers here, 2-12, meaning Caio did no damage, right? So all you're going to be judging, essentially what you're judging is Armen Petrosyan's damage on the feet versus Borralho's ground control and possibility of finishing the fight on the ground. How close was Borralho to finishing the fight on the ground? I didn't see him close to finishing the fight at all. Right? I understand that position matters, and I understand that going for submissions matter, but how many submissions did he attempt? 0? 0 official submission attempts. So not a single one recorded in this entire fight. And you're going to tell me that equates to the 12 significant strikes that Petrosyan landed? 2 minutes and 50 seconds of control time. Actually, we can subtract the 26 seconds that Petrosyan had, right, when he was standing over and kicking him in the butt or whatever, doing the Kamaru Usman. He's the champ. It's an effective technique. So we'll call it 2.5 minutes. So half of the round, he had good position. All right, great position. He didn't do anything with it. He didn't get the finish. He didn't even have a recordable submission attempt. Didn't do any damage either. So what are you scoring? You're telling me that the control time, we just went over this. How is that? I gave that second round to Petrosyan. And this isn't me favoring striking over grappling. This is me going off of the judging criteria and how you're supposed to do it. Damage is first. If you're not actively trying to finish the fight and you're not improving position, you didn't attempt a single submission, so you can't be trying to finish the fight via submission if you didn't attempt one. Now you're trying to set up submissions, that's fine. But that only counts for what that counts for, which is damageless offense is what I would call it. Setting up submissions is risky. You can lose position. You don't do significant damage to your opponent most of the time, unless you're throwing punches to soften up your opponent to set up the submissions. But just going for positional changes and micro adjustments and hand position and those things to set up submissions, it's a risky game because you could lose position. You're not scoring, and if you don't get the submission, you've got nothing from it. Now, you can say that's unfair or whatever you want, but that's the game. because if you do get the submission, if you do get a deep submission attempt, it does count. If you do get a deep submission, you could finish the fight right there. Not often can you finish the fight with one punch. Someone who does damage over an entire round, that takes a lot of time. That's a lot of output. Right? But you have an opportunity to finish the fight almost immediately. So it's a cost benefit. Are you going to get, or if you just stay in good position, like if Borralho had done a little bit of damage on the feet and then stayed in good position over Petrosyan, fine. Or like he did in the first round. No real damage was done in the first round either way, in my opinion. He got him down really early and held him down there the whole time and took his back. There's nothing wrong with that. He had 4.5 minutes of control time. That's a dominant round for him. But and this is the part that irks me, is when I see a person who's so excited at the end of the fight by this performance that they just put out, and the way he was leaning on him in the third round, actively stalling, this does not bode well for, especially in a 3-round fight, this does not bode well for a long successful championship level career. Right, this is something that it drives me goddamn nuts. And in the third round here, Petrosyan landed even more damage than he did in the second round, was controlled about the same amount of time, but also had control. He was in good position. He was standing up while Borralho sat on his back, and he kicked him repeatedly, very hard in the leg. So based off of that, I gave this last round to Petrosyan. I gave him the last 2 rounds, giving him the fight. Okay? Now, if you want to argue over that second round and we want to go minute by minute or second by second, position by position, and we want to break it down, we can argue that stuff, and that's fine. I think the damage that Petrosyan did outweighs anything that Borralho did. And it was very evident in the third round. It was harder to see in the second round because it still looked like, oh, maybe he's trying to go for submissions and maybe he stalled. He got into a good position and didn't work to finish. Right? It's like someone throwing jabs the entire time. Would you be happy about that? Everybody hated when Georges St. Pierre did that shit. But it's an effective technique if you do more than your opponent, which he did not. All right, moving on here to something that doesn't make me as mad. Said Nurmagomedov. Yeah, Said Nurmagomedov versus Douglas Silva de Andrade. In this first round, I was pretty sure that that Said had the damage and the volume advantage, and Douglas was throwing really big looking hooks and originally tried to grab and hold, but it wasn't effective enough to win him this round. So he tried to get a lot of control time in this first round, but he didn't do enough damage or positional stuff with it. Striking numbers are super close, 8-9. I could see how that could go to Andrade. I'd have to go back and really watch it if I was super concerned, because this was a split. Nurmagomedov ends up getting the split decision win here. Oh, no. Oh, no. He got the unanimous decision, but somebody gave him all 3 rounds. That was the weird thing. Yeah, we'll talk about some other split decisions later. Said was landing more, again, all round in that second round. And then he took one big shot near the end of the round. I don't know who got that second round either, because I don't think that big shot did enough to outweigh all the things that he did. But I would also go with Nurmagomedov. And then in this last round, the same thing. There was a lot of chaos in the last round. Big shots landed on both sides. And there was a position where Silva was standing, and Nurmagomedov was on the ground, but he didn't really do anything. He kicked him in the butt, and he got big kicks on the ground, but he really... Oh, no, sorry. Nurmagomedov actually was kicking up at him and doing more damage while he was grounded, so that really didn't get any points for Andrade there. Oh, man. My nose is running like crazy. So I also had it 3 rounds for Nurmagomedov, agreeing with Mike Bell. I agree with him a lot, too. That's not true. I agree with different referees. I gave him all 3 rounds, but if you gave that first round to Andrade, I totally understand. Moving on here. Not much to say about Nurmagomedov. I think he's a good fighter. I think he has a lot to work on, though. Fun heavyweight fight here. Jared Vanderaa versus Chase Sherman. The first 3 rounds were close. Sorry. The first 2 rounds were close, and the third round was also close. But Chase Sherman ends up getting the volume TKO in this last round after landing a good shot to rock him. So, wow, these numbers are not even close, huh? 29-46 in favor of Sherman, and then 44-40 in favor of Vanderaa, 36-51 in favor of Sherman. So Sherman actually landed more than him on the first round. So I had it. By the way, Vanderaa with his shaved head and very short beard, he looks like a chubby Tom Hardy. Look at it. Trust me, he does. This is the best Chase Sherman has ever looked in the octagon, with good head movement, and his striking looks very much improved. He still holds his head like way too stationary and on the center line, doesn't move back and forth at all. He's very hittable, stands up really straight, but his striking did look better. It looked more natural. Jared had his moments landing good shots. Chase was landing a lot more early, and then Jared got his distance better and landed some really big shots in the last minute. It was close as far as like how much damage was done, but I actually gave the first round to Vanderaa because I thought he did more damage with those big hands at the end of the round. And then Jared was out in front for striking numbers in the second round, and he did enough to win that round early as far as I'm concerned. Sherman landed some good stuff of his own, but, it was close, 44-40. I gave it to Vanderaa. And then in this last one, I wrote down, I was like, these guys never got full sloppy heavyweight, which is nice. They were sticking to fundamentals, doing 1-2, throwing 1-2s, jab cross, jab straight, doing strikes with some hooks thrown in. Yeah, they got a little sloppy sometimes, but it didn't turn into a big, tired, fat, sloppy heavyweight fight that we see so often. And that's great because those suck. And I'm glad we didn't get that. With some, Sherman he was able to land, what did he do? What did he land? He landed a really good hook and rocked Vanderaa. Vanderaa never could get his wits about him. He was probably a little bit tired. Obviously, he was tired, and he was just taking a lot of damage, and he wasn't able to recover. And the TKO victory goes to Chase Sherman. So, again, I got nothing to say about either one of those guys. I think they're low-level heavyweights. Here's an interesting fight, though. Let's talk about Aiemann Zahabi versus Ricky Turcios. Ricky Turcios, sorry. Here's when meaningless offense is really meaningless. And by the way, he had me fooled in the first round, too. I almost gave that first round to Turcios, to Ricky. So Aiemann Zahabi, obviously the younger brother of Faraz Zahabi, the famous trainer from TriStar. Yeah. Anyway, Ricky was making all this noise coming out. He was making all these extra movements. He was jumping up and down, making like, oh my God, he's just like the ki sounds from karate, like ha, yeah, wah, hio, come on, like doing all this crap, jumping up and down, throwing his hands around, stomping, like doing all this shit. He attempted 53 strikes and only landed 7 of them, whereas Zahabi landed 12. I'm guessing all 3 judges gave that first round to Ricky, even though Zahabi landed the more effective, significant strikes. That's for damn sure in that first round. Second round was more of the same, but Ricky was not making the dumb noises or stupid movements as much in the second round, and then Zahabi was still landing everything that he wanted to. His counters were more effective. He was landing really good stuff as Turcios moved in. Second round went to Zahabi. And then Zahabi took no damage the entire fight. He stayed safe, did safe striking the whole time. Look at how many strikes Ricky attempted in this last round. 98, and he landed 10. That is meaningless shit. So I wrote down the judges gave the first round to Ricky for the bullshit movement and noises. So that sets kind of a bad precedent that I don't like. That means if the striking numbers are even remotely close, because they were 5 in favor of Zahabi, you can win a round by literally throwing at nothing, making noises and stomping and moving around at midair. You can win a round that way. That's really scary, and I do not like that. I do not like that at all. All 3 judges did that shit too. Also, hold on, let's see. Oh, Ricky's corner failed him real bad. Consistently calling out Zahabi. They were saying like, oh, he's ducking and chucking. Here he goes. There he is. There it comes. Here it comes. And he would, Zahabi was ducking down and about to throw his big overhand right. But here's the thing. Ricky overreacted to every single one of those and like jumped 2 feet back. He would take 2 or 3 steps, jump backwards, and then his corner was congratulating him and being like, yeah, that's what we're talking about. At some point, you could tell Zahabi was just doing it to get Ricky to back up. Those were just feints. And his corner failed him bad. Ricky's corner failed him bad because they're like congratulating him. If you want to dodge, if you know that punch is coming, move out of the way of it. And yeah, if you move back once in a while and make big movements, shit happens. That can happen anytime in any fight with any level of fighter. But the ideal is to move as little as possible without taking damage. So to move your head off the center line, maybe take a step to the right and counter. Because if you move too much, 1, you use a ton of energy, but 2, you're not in position to counter strike. And that's his problem, is the whole time he was way out of range, and his corner is like yelling about, oh yeah, that's great, that's what we're looking for. It was completely pointless, really stupid, and I'm upset for Ricky that his corner was yelling that shit out. Zahabi got the win here, rightfully so, and I hope his corner kind of fixes their shit and realizes that Zahabi played them like pretty bad. So, I think, was that it for the main card? Oh, now I don't know. No, it wasn't. No. I was right. I wrote this down right. So, Jamie Mullarkey taking on Michael Johnson. This fight was fun because they both cracked each other pretty good in this first round. So, Jamie Mullarkey ends up getting the split decision win. Really came down to how you scored that first round because the next 2 rounds were very easy to score. So, in this first round, Johnson landed a left hook that put Mullarkey down, and he spent time recovering. He spent some time to recover, and he landed some big shots like Michael Johnson did. Even though Mullarkey ended up landing more in this first round, which I think is what ended up winning him this round, in my opinion. So when he eventually got his wits about him, Mullarkey that is, he landed a left hook that dropped Johnson. Now, it didn't look like as bad as when Mullarkey got dropped, but it was pretty bad, and he stunned him. He stunned him good and followed up with some really good shots of his own, and that was right at the end of the round. And now I don't think that counts more because it was near the end of the round. I'm not one of those people. I would say that those 2 things almost, cancel themselves out. And then because Mullarkey ended up landing more and did more overall damage, I would say Mullarkey won that first round. It was close, though. You could give that first round to Johnson. No arguments from me. Mullarkey put his foot on the gas in the second round, though. His output went through the roof, going from 53 attempted in the first round to 95 attempted strikes in the second round, landing 45 of those to Johnson's 18. Definitely utilizing clinch work and distance striking, landing well the whole round. Mullarkey was up 20-18. So Johnson really needed a finish on my book. He needed a finish. He needed a finish to win this fight. He didn't get it, but he did have a great round. Johnson did more damage in this last round, even though, again, the striking numbers were very close, 30-31 in favor of Mullarkey. I still gave this last round to Johnson. I thought he did the most damage in that round. I thought the split decision was close, and there's nothing wrong with the decision. I didn't hate this fight. I didn't hate. I thought it was a blast. And Jamie Mullarkey's, I don't know if he's going to be able. He's a durable guy. He is, and but he lost to Jalen Turner. There's no shame in that. Jalen Turner's really good. Before that, he beat Kama Worthy and Devontae Smith. So, yeah, I mean, this Ziam fight was garbage. Ziam is terrible. That's a bad loss. But losing to Brad Riddell, there's no shame in that. Losing to Jalen Turner, no shame in that. So really, even if he lost this, like, it was close enough that's fine. In lightweight, he might be able. Did Turner get a ranking after last weekend? He did. Okay. So Jalen Turner moves up to ranked number 14. Mullarkey probably needs one good win to get into the rankings now, maybe two. Probably two, because Turner was a little bit on a tear. That's how he did that. So, yeah. But he didn't really face anybody up until Mullarkey, I would say, and then Brad Riddell. And he lost to Riddell and Turner. So it's hard to put him, let's just say, like, in the rankings after this weekend. But I think Mullarkey can be competitive. He's very hittable, and his toughness is going to carry him through. It's just how much is that going to... I mean, he beat Kama Worthy, right? So he can take it. I mean, and he knocked Kama Worthy out, too. So he can take a shot. He took a shot from Michael Johnson and got back up. So he can take a shot from pretty much anybody. It's going to be whether or not he improves enough to where he doesn't have to rely on his chin to move forward. But based off what I saw here, I would be skeptical of that happening. Tough fighter, might break the top 15, but unless something super drastic changes in his style or his, pretty much his style. I don't see him breaking the top 10 anytime soon. He might. He could prove me wrong. Maybe his toughness will carry him into there. All right, that is it. So if you're looking for the prelims, that's going to be on the next video. This was the main card. Let me know what you guys thought. Did you guys agree with me? Do you think that I was way off base in the Armen Petrosyan fight? Do you think that laying on top of him or on his back did enough to outweigh all the damage that came back in the other direction? Do you think that I'm off my base or off my rocker because of that? Anyway, if you like this stuff, if you like this video, subscribe to the channel so you know when the next one's coming out. I'd really appreciate it. If you do like it, like the video, press the like button. If this is the only video that you watch this week, thanks for spending time here. It means a lot to me. Hope everybody has an amazing week. Enjoy the nice weather while we still have it, and I love y'all. Take it easy.